Afternoon, everyone. How are you? How was your weekend? Hope everything uh, was well and good. Great. Okay, so in the second lecture of today, lecture 44, we will talk about debugging. So we have talked about this topic before in 2 weeks, before 2 weeks from today. It was lecture 20 something. I remember well. And so today we will talk more, or let's say we will revisit debugging, since you are writing code now, and I think many of you is facing or would face bugs or issues with their code. This is normal. This is programming. So yeah, we will look at different examples of debugging, and these examples, you might find them simple, but it's like a way how to debug in simple errors in order for you to handle complex errors, because usually the errors that you face is based on context. Like usually the most difficult bugs or debugging issues is related to your programming, the logic of your program. So the intended outcome was not what you're expecting. So that's the usual case of debugging. But there's, of course, syntax, styling, indentation, and so on, indentation. So those are easier, and if there's variable names and function names, those are easier to overcome. But yeah, the most difficult ones are the stuff related to the logic of the program. So we will take a revisit. I'm gonna share my screen. Revisit debugging. Okay. So usually when developers debug, they seek help. This is normal, especially beginner or intermediate developers. So there is resources online, and of course, the famous Stack Overflow. The developing community, people help each other. People from different experiences contribute, and so on. Even one day you can contribute. Maybe you have faced something or a context, and you have experience in that context. You could have a username on Stack Overflow and help there. But today our errors again is doesn't require Stack Overflow, because they're relatively easy to handle, because we want to look at debugging rather than solving certain issue. So I have code here with different scenarios and with different issues. So the first one is related to Node.js. So as you know, we are using Node to compile. Node allows us to run JavaScript on the server, or on the server side. JavaScript is usually runs on the browser, but Node allows us to run it on the server side or on the machine. And Node, as you know, it comes with the Node package manager, which give us it has a library of packages where we can use these packages in our code. So we will look at certain scenarios where we might face like errors. Okay, maybe before that, even we can talk about style, like indentation and style of coding. So to fix this, I think maybe many of you have done this already, but if you go to the extensions and there's an extension called Prettier, there's many extensions for making the code. They are called formatters. So if you find a formatter that you like, I find this very easy, and it works with JavaScript, TypeScript, CSS, and so on, HTML. So there's the installation, or you can install it from the VS Code here. And if you just Control S, save, it's gonna format your code. So you'll solve the issue of styling. So if I have like code like this, I just saved, everything is formatted. So I'm not sure if any of you have like applied this before or using this before or any other formatter, but yeah, this is like a very easy and convenient way to have like a code written in style, you can say, or easy to read code. Yeah. It's called Prettier code format. Okay. And so I'm gonna start with this example here. I'm gonna run my code first and see what error I have. So prompt is not defined, so we didn't define prompt. So I'm using a package here called prompt. So it's different than the normal JavaScript prompt. This is a package provided by NPM. It allows to have code that is more organized with more features. So if you look at my code, I have prompt.start and I have prompt.get, and I have to define prompt first. So this is my first error. This you can say like a missed line of code. This is trivial, so I just need to add this line of code. So I'm trying also while applying debugging to introduce you to like more technology or different libraries. So yeah, this is prompt. So the way to do to work with libraries in any in let's say most or almost all frameworks or libraries is to go to the documentation and look at their examples. So usually you would have the way, the usage, and the way to install. So if you're looking for any package, you want to work with numbers, you want to work with arrays or anything else, you type, search for a package and look at what this package do and use this package. So this, as the title says, a beautiful command line prompt for Node.js. So this is the way to use it. We use require. So require is used to include the modules of Node.js. So I've missed this line of code. And as you can see, Prettier gave me different colors. So this is a function called prompt, but I don't have this function, as you can see. So that's why I have this error. It's not defined. But when I define the variable prompt, So now it knows this is a module called prompt. And if you look at the path, it's node module. So now I save. This is a basic example that, okay, prompt that like include the module and then start the prompt, then get from the user like username and email. We will look at the syntax in a moment, but we have to use prompt is call the module, then there's defined functions start. As you know, prompt is basically asking the user to enter something. Enter here. So this is the prompt. So I started the prompt, and this is what I wanna choose. This is what I wanna get from the user from as an input. So there is the JavaScript prompt that many of you have used. There's this prompt, and that has, as you will see, like more appealing command line. So if I run node script JS now, okay, I have another error. Cannot find module. This is also a very popular error that we forgot to install. Like a package. So we go to install, and so as you can see, npm install prompt. This is the installation. Again, you in each documentation of many frameworks, you would have the same. You would find the same like the same documentation, place to install, how to do tests, examples, and so on. So you should expect this in different programming languages or frameworks. So we install prompt. Then we run one more time. We run node script one more time. So as you can see, let's look what prompt do. Prompt username. So the way get start works is just open the prompt, and the way get works is to tell us what to get from the user. So as you can see, there is like more a grayish username or property, which is the username. And I have error. If there's an error, I can print the error. I didn't use the error argument, as you can see, but there is the result. I want the result. So console log username and result. So as you can see also, I didn't have console command line input received printed on the command line. So what get do is go to the first result used and like you use that to get username. So here I can just say, okay, username and then email y at test.com. And when I print, like when I look at the object, as you can see, I have object. I have an error. So these kinds of errors, again, we go to the package. So this package is written by people, as you can see, collaborators. They have provided these functions in a way. So we have to follow the way they have built this function to understand how their functions work and to achieve the results that we want. So we cannot like we have to use their functions based on how they have declared these functions. So as you can see, this function get two properties from the user, which is username and email. This is the way we do it. We have an array of two properties. Then we have a function where we can do when we can do actions or print output. So the way to do it is to prompt username with result, and result is an object with different variables, which is the variables that I defined here. So the error I have here is um, I didn't use result dot username here, right? Yeah. So again, these kinds of errors, if it's related to the package, you go to the package documentation to know how to fix these errors. So you don't need to understand what is behind, because this is the idea of packages, that it has like functions, structures, and methods that you use to to solve your issues or problems in the code without like digging deep behind what's happening in these functions. So let's run the JavaScript script folder one more time. So I have username, okay, name, then email name at test. Well, as you can see, okay, this is email. Font, it's a parameter. Yeah, I think so. It's an object, since we are accessing properties. I think so. We can look at results. I think off. Oh yeah, it's an object. So it's an object, and we need username and email here to as the input field to assign to username. So this is and as you can see, after I input my username and password, I could have like any other console logs I have here, even though they come before the input, the input field. So based on like, if, as you know, JavaScript is sequential, so we should have these printed lines, but we didn't. Instead, we have the username first, because this is how the package works. It jumps when you go into get, you jump to result username, and take that and assign it to the console. So this is our first scenario. Let's look at the second one. We can try that. That's with questions. So let's say we have let mobile and so we can say global equal result dot username, and then okay. It's um so I should print this after the get dot. I think so. It goes to global, but uh, okay. If we have time, we can also look at how how to run code after and this is not the best way to ask ChatGPT for this, but yeah, callback, exactly. So we can do callback and okay, we go to async to make this. Okay, this is gonna make it more complicated. I think so, but I don't know how we can like look at global. We need the global after we finish everything. So yeah, it's in this simple example is hard to tell. We need to look at async stuff like asynchronous and callbacks. So we need to make sure the function is called first and everything is stored, and then we can go call console global. That's why if we run the code now, as you can see, we're having undefined. So there's a prompt, but we are printing global, and global is empty already. So if we have like this is oh, as you can see, I have an initial value. Even if I entered, okay, this is the username, this is the password, I would still wouldn't print. So I would have username and password and this, but I can't access global. So to do this, we need callbacks and async functions, which is, I would say, for now, it's complicated, and we have like, yeah, we have to continue working on debugging. But thank you. This is a good question. So the second example I have is okay. Now let's comment this. I have prompt start, and I have a different way to like to access or to get files from prompt. So as you can see, I have bad indentation here. Like those are so as you know, this is an object, and usually there is a hierarchy to get in, like the name and the password, and those. If you look at the lines here that VSCode provide us, it gave us like, as you can see, the hierarchy. So those should be under name. So since I'm using Prettier, I can just save and I have everything organized. So this is not an issue. Like again, the indentation styling, you can solve it with an extension. Another issue you can look at here is like the naming. So names should be meaningful in order to make it easy for us to understand what is this. So we can call this like, okay, we have name and password, we have message, so we can say user, for instance. And okay, so the way I'm doing this is also according to the documentation. We have a different way to call get. Instead of having an array here, we can have an object and pass it to get. So the object is called schema here. And yeah, it has properties, name and password. So I have the object user. I don't have properties. Let's see what's gonna happen if I run the code. So as you can see, I have object instead of like the expected message of, as you can see, I'm calling name and password. So I should have name here in the prompt, like the way we have it with username and email, we have here name and password. So the reason, again, this is a package. We write code of packages according to the documentation. So properties, the way to do it, you should have properties as a keyword. And if we compare it with implementation, okay, properties, we have object schema, then we have properties of that object, then I can have any property that I can ask the user to enter. And as you can see, there's options for each property. You can have a regex pattern. Okay, it should be, this is regex, regular expression. So this means only allow from A to Z, and from A to Z capital letters. And yeah, I'm not sure about this, but we will talk about regular expressions in future lectures. So regex, for those of you who do not know, regex is a way to ask the user to enter certain pattern, like certain okay, I want the user to enter only numbers, then I can use pattern of numbers, a regex of numbers. I want the user to enter like email address, so it should have like, you know, first section, and then like first what do they call it? Like, as you know, email has like the first part, first section, and then add second part, then dot, then the third part, or the third yeah. Space also would be could be used. I don't like memorize how regex works, but we go to the it based on also the language we're using. So we go to the like the regex of that language and apply it. So again, we will talk about regex in the future. But you can know that using this prompt, you can have easily a way to control what the user is entering through this pattern. You can have a message which is name must be only letters, spaces, or dashes. Oh, okay, you mean this for a space. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, you're correct. So this is space and this is dash. And this is required, so the user cannot like press enter, because okay, this is another error I have before we go back to the user, is that I have ER here, which is through error. ER is not defined. This is very trivial again. This is like syntax or like error of entering which variable we want to use. So ERR is the variable. Then again, as you can see, after I've added properties, now I can see name. So if I press enter, I would have name must be only letters, spaces, or dashes, because it's required. I cannot skip that. So I have to enter the name. And password, as you can see, hidden true. So I'm typing now password, but there's nothing on the screen. As you can see, it's hidden. So I'm gonna enter password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Enter. And I have hello this. When you see this, this is also popular error. The using of the inline and inserting of a string. And this is usually solved by using this this quotation, the one at the top left. Any of you know its name, apostrophe. I'm not sure, maybe apostrophe, instead of having double quotation or single quotation. You should add this one, the apostrophe top left, in order to use the inline using of string. Then we save, then we run node one more time, then we enter the name. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have the password. I have the name. Let's look at the password. And here is the password. Okay, this is the second example I have. So as you can see, this is very helpful. Node.js is used to run JavaScript on the server. So when you have a backend and you use Node.js to build the server on the backend, you can use these libraries to do backend operations. And as you know, the terminal is very helpful in identifying errors or like looking at the output before you implement it on the front end. So this is our second example. Let's look at the last example with prompt. The last example is to add properties to an object. So I have an object, I called it O. Again, this is not like a best practice. So the way to do it is I type Control H. In VS Code, if you go Control H, you can search and replace, and you can do replace all. So I want to replace O with object, and I click replace all. I can click replace, which replace the first encounter, I think. Yeah. If I click replace all, it's gonna replace all anything that is called O. Gonna be O. Okay, I have different O's, so I want to catch these O's. So you should look at how many here. So I have these two, and I can replace all. And I still have this one here. I can do it manually. So I have object, and this object has password and location. Then I can see I can look at the object through console.directory. So console.directory is a way to print objects on the screen, but using like by expanding the objects. As you know, objects in JavaScript looks like this, like a list, key and value. So if I do, let's look at the comparison between console log, console directory when it comes to objects. Okay, so I'm having objects, I'm printing it on the screen, and okay, we will look at that in a moment. We're using prompt to add properties to that object, which is basically to add new key values. So you want the user to add new key values to your object, you can do that with add properties. So as you can see, I have two keys here. I want to add another two keys, username and the email, and I want the user to update these values. So I use add properties. So let's run the code. Okay, I have an error. So as you know, so if you look to log and directory, you would see same output. So log print the object as it is, but directory make like an expanding list view. So that you can see the difference once we have more properties on that object. And so let's look at the error. So as you know, in JavaScript, we go to the error here. So you'd see an arrow and you go to the error next. This is your error all the time. Prompt is not a function. So in like if you're working with more complex code, you just and you cannot find your context on the documentation. You can copy this and paste it on Google to go to Stack Overflow or to ChatGPT. This is normal. Like it's expected to like for developers to seek help from other developers. But if you like, sometimes we don't need that, or before we like ask anyone, we can just look at it by ourselves. So this is not a function, then there's an issue with this function. So we can go back to documentation, seed, property, function. Okay, here it is. Okay, the way it's at properties, it's with naming, so I can run load script now, and I have the initial object, it's the same. Now let's add a new uh, keys to that object, name, and email is name at test.com. And when I print, as you can see using directory, I have this view. I type log. Let's look at the view. Uh, okay, same view. Okay. I think it's with the list view. Let's look at difference. Used to log data to the console for debugging. More, okay, you can pass more arguments. Uh, okay, it's used to display objects. Okay, this is log. The directory is used to display object in an expandable and interactive tree-like format. Okay, that's the difference. So maybe, yeah, it's gonna be like more obvious if we have like a nested view. We can look at that. Okay, let's. When you want to inspect the structure of complex objects or explore their properties in nested objects. So log is used for simple logging, and directory is used when you want to examine properties. If you have complex objects, you would see the benefit of directory, but in our cases here, it's not an issue. But if you have more like complex objects, console directory would be more useful, or we can stick to log as like I can see the real difference, at least for these examples. But anyway, it's provided for us, and yeah, you can keep that in mind. So this is our like first set of errors, and I've also introduced prompt as a new package. Now I can, or I'm gonna look at another package with another errors. So programming is about practice, as you know. So the more you write code and see code, the more you become more experienced. And the more you're introduced to concepts also is the more you become more familiar with how to solve your like logical issues. Like if you have a design and you want to do something, so the more you're familiar with coding, the more you have methods or way to tackle these design issues or programming issues. So another package I have is called lodash. So this is provided by npm, same as the one before. Okay, we can type lodash here. Okay. Okay, here's the way installation. So as you can see, I have only installation in this documentation, and usually also you would see on the right the repository of GitHub, because usually it's these libraries are open source, and like people have, as you can see, MIT license. This is free. You can have the prompt, and you have you can like see the code of prompt and do modifications if you want. So you would have different information here, and number of weekly downloads. This is like 500,000. This is 51 million weekly downloads. So this is very famous. And I can't see the documentation, so probably they have it somewhere else. When there's like big libraries like this, usually it's gonna have its own website. Yeah, it's this one, which provides utility functions. So you have to go to their website and look at the documentation. Okay, here's the documentation. So this library, what does this library do is it makes easier for us to work with arrays. And makes JavaScript easier by taking the hassle out of working with arrays, numbers. And so on. So it provides functions to deal with arrays, numbers, objects, strings, etc. So there's many functions that are very helpful. And also, if you're working with a team or company, they would have like the lead developer or the IT manager, the CTO. They would define what technology that you're using. So there's many solutions out there, many packages, many frameworks, libraries, etc. So it's up to like the team lead to decide which technology to use. So like let's imagine, okay, maybe the CTO decided to use this library, for instance. So the way for the developer to learn about this library is this way: to go to the documentation, and based on use, you can search by name and do operations. So there's operations on arrays, collections, functions, language, math, and so on. So I've picked like few easy examples. So it's again an npm. I think I've downloaded that. So if I run script 2, okay, it's there. And okay, let me save. Okay, so usually the way they work with lodash is to have like underscore as the module name, lodash module name underscore. Sorry, the link of which one? Of this one? Sure. And so let's look at this scenario here. I have an array of users. Each like array of objects, basically. First, each object contains a name and age. Name ABC, age 28, 22, 65. So I can sort. This is very basic. And the way to call these, the way to use lodash is to call the name. Usually it's underscore all the time. So underscore dot sort by. So you can do underscore dot, and you have all the functions that lodash provides. So this is how it's very powerful. So I can do sort by, And I can go to the documentation to know how this works. And sorry, just 1 second, excuse me. Okay. So I do underscore and then sort by, and then I pass the users, which is the array that I want to sort. So I think if we go here to the arrays and we look at the score, we have sort, many sorts. Okay, so many sort functions. Let's say I want to sort. So I type sort. Okay, collection. I want to sort by collection. This is a collection. It's a collection of objects. And I use sort by, I pass the collection. And okay, let's look the difference between collection versus array JavaScript. Okay, there's certain differences between the two. Ordered arrays are ordered collections of values where each value is associated with an index. Collection is more generic and can refer to various data structures. So this is array, as you know, and collection is it's more generic, and it's okay, we can use an object as a collection and a map as a collection. So arrays are more specific. Collections implemented as objects or maps. So this is the difference. So I think it's good to know the use instead of definitions here. But why I wrote this so to not confuse anyone or myself. So we know the arrays, but collection is another way, or it's as title say, generic term to how we like structure or collected data or various data or various stored data, and we can have objects as okay, keys are not limited to integers. This is one main difference. So as you know, this is index 0, index 1, index 2. This while in collections it's not limited to index. But here I think we can sort by, we can use it for, let's look at sort. Yeah, we can pass. Okay, the collection, yeah, it should be a collection. Yeah. Okay, now let's look how the function works. So we pass the collection and we pass which parameter to sort the collection items using to. So as you can see, age is not defined. So the mistake I've had here is I should maybe I go back to the documentation and sort by. I should add either a function and the way to, or either like an array of keys or keys. So the keys, as you can see, they should be between quotations. And I can do run. Cannot treat properties of undefined reading. Well, okay. Okay, I'm calling console log on this, which is weird. I shouldn't. So as you can see, I've like, this is the collection, how it was written. And now, as you can see, I have BAC, which is basic for based on like the lower value of age to the higher value. So this is the use of sort by. The errors we have again related to this and console log. Console log shouldn't be linked with yeah, it's console log dot something. So we shouldn't mix these functions related to the module with functions or methods related to JavaScript. Again, if you want to know more or how to use SortBy, there's many examples, but yeah, we are focusing on debugging. So let's move to the second example, which is this one. So this example, we have array of numbers and we have even numbers. As you can see, there's when you have fade out in VSCode, that it means that you're not using this variable. There's something you have defined the variable, but you're not using it, even though I'm printing the variable here. So the issue is, as you can see with the name, so now the variables have the same color. It's like this. This would be light, which is couldn't find, and this would be grayed out because it's not used. But if it's used, they would have the same color. The value is defined, and the variable is defined and used. So I'm using lodash with filter arrays basically. So we pass the array and we pass the condition of filtering, which is a function. This is called arrow function. So it doesn't need a name, it's just called. I pass the value num. And what I want to do with the value num is, if there's an array, if you see this like syntax, it means go to each value of the array. You can name it whatever you want, this one, but you can go to this value of array and bring me the values that apply this condition. So this means the anyone knows the name of this? I forgot the name. The modular. So in math, this means so if let's start with, let's say 10. If I divide 10 by 2, then what is the output? 10 by 2 is equal 5. Now, what is it the modular, or basically what is the numbers that you divide by 2 and you wouldn't have any extra you wouldn't have any extra rest of numbers. I forgot the name in math. Remainder. Thank you. Yes, remainder. So you didn't have remainder. So yeah, in this case, it's so basically it's even numbers, because even numbers, if you divide by 2, you would have 0. So let's run script. So I would have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So if I say 3 here, I will get numbers that divide by 3, which is 3, 6, 9, and 5. It's very useful, as you can see. Just one line of code, I just lodash filter, and I can have these values. Again, you can check the documentation for more different cases. But the error we were looking at is the variable. Check the colors of variables. Grayed out means it's not used. So if you're not using the variable, make sure you're using it, or just remove the line, because it's yeah, it's doing nothing. So the third example I have, this means function. This basically means this. This means this. So this and this are equal, but if you have only one line of code, you can either do it like this way, or you can just do it like between brackets, and you have to add the semicolon. But since this is an arrow function, so that function you need function, then variable, and you can do this. So I would have okay in filter. Yeah, I have to pass arrow function. So the function should be passed and the value should be entered here. This is based on how filter works. But function num quotations and open brackets equals to this function num function num and then arrow and return. Exactly. Oh yes, for that one it should return, right? Yeah. So I should return oh, thank you. Yes. So instead of writing this, we can just write it in one line, which is this one. This is called arrow functions. You don't need semicolon at the end, and it returns the value. Sorry, what do you mean by what called arrow functions? Okay, this is the second, yeah, one. This is the third. So I have an items. I have an array of, or as we have seen, this is collection. So again, this is something we can discuss later. Look at like difference between collections and arrays, but keep this in mind that in JavaScript there is difference. So collections are more with using objects inside, or using objects as arrays, or yeah. The difference is, as we saw, the main difference that we can focus on is the index. The index in arrays usually 0, 1, 2. The index here is not necessarily so. So we have constant items, array of 4 objects. Each object has 2 properties, category and name. And we need to group items by category. So if I run the code, okay, I have error. I go to the arrow and see where the error is. Then I can go to the name of the error. Group by is not defined. So this is not a function. So there's error with point function. Yeah, thank you. So now function should works. So as you can see, I have grouped the items based on the category. So I have now an object that contains 2 groups, that contains 2 properties. Each one is the category property. So you can modify collections or objects into different objects through group by. So you group by objects or collections based on keys inside these properties. So the error we have again is underscore dot. So this is trivial. Of course, many of you would say, okay, this is very trivial, but the main problems, as you have seen, I think already, is with context, with the logic of what you want to achieve. And these are context based. But what we are now trying to do is looking at different scenarios. I think someone has a question.
Yes, if you please. I have a question. Always the lodash library or module work with array of object?
Array of objects?
Yes.
Not necessarily. If you go documentation, you can work with arrays like this.
Regular array. How I will group by in that situation?
On group by, let's look at group by. So arguments collection, a collection to iterate over. It should be a collection.
Okay.
So let's try it by ourselves. Let's say we have something like this. Okay, this wouldn't work because objects usually have keys and values. So okay. As you can see, the question also is related to lodash. Collection functions work on arrays and array-like objects. Collections are things that implement some kind of iterable interface, and they internally use the same iteration method. The array methods should only be used on arrays. Okay, all arrays are collections, but not all collections are arrays. Yeah, this is something also we can keep in mind. All arrays are collections, but not all collections are arrays. So this is a collection, but it's not an array. So this is a question people are asking. So it's normal that we also ask. It's not.
So the function for each that we took it before, it's one of the lodash function?
No, for each is JavaScript.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Lodash.
For each. Yeah, but it's work with array, yeah.
It works with array, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what's happening here. So lodash is lodash is a module that we're using, package, and to access its function, you have to do underscore dot. So maybe it has its own for each that override the normal for each. Yeah, it has its own for each. So the for each of JavaScript works. So here, this is how it works.
Okay.
Pass the array and then function. The for each of JavaScript is
just pass, yeah.
Just pass the array at the beginning and call each, right? Yeah. So yeah, the array and then
for each and the
so this is called override, I think. So, or not even override, because the way to call it is different. So to call the lodash for each is this, while the normal for each, you just need to pass an array and then for each.
Okay. And this lodash, it's inside the packages package.json gonna be
downloaded here, modules. So the way
modules, okay.
Yeah. So we use npm, the package manager, to download the modules that we want, and then they are gonna be, as you can see, it's here.
Okay, got
it. So you basically bring functions that you use in your in the environment.
Yes, that's a predefined function. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
But it's like, JavaScript is a programming language which has many, like, it's famous and established and everything, but there's many let's say improvements and enhancements here and there. So okay, Node is a way to run JavaScript on the server side, and then there's many packages and libraries to support this. One of these ways is these packages, lodash, and then prompt, and there's many other packages.
Open
also.
resource, yeah, okay.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
open resource, and at the same time, it's like, as you say, predefined functions to help us achieve our goal, basically, in our code. So the last, I'm gonna like jump to the last example here, then we can have a break. The last example is okay, I have original object here. Okay, we know the object structure with these brackets and keys and values. And I have name, age, address, and then I have clone deep. So clone is a function from lodash to clone another object. So as you know, clone from GitHub is basically copying. So we can copy and keep the original object. So we take the copy using clone deep, and then we change the name of the original object, make it name2, and then we print both. Let's look at our code. So as you can see, name2, the original become, instead of name1, the original became name2, and the cloned object, which is this one, become name1. So name2 and name1. So there's no error here. Yeah. But maybe the error that you would face with keys, if you have keys that, okay, make sure to use the keys that are there. Sometimes we do something like, okay, name, and then we don't print a key that isn't there in that object. So to avoid this, usually it's like spelling issues. So to avoid that, go to the object dot and look at the properties. Excuse me. Usually they have this blue box, so you can just select the one that you want instead of just typing it by yourself, which sometimes cause issues. So this is a third example to clone. This is a library. Again, you are free also to explore libraries here. So let's say you want button, certain kind of button. You can look at the buttons. This is a button dialog. You can try, install, and use, but look at the downloads. So this is 8. It's not popular, so it's not recommended, and so on. Look at the downloads. Some frameworks has points, and yeah, the more points or the more popular the package is, the more robust the package. Yes, I think so. You can do this with, we have done this using prompt at property, but yeah, you can do this using you can do this using JavaScript. Like you can just define the function in and after you clone, you just add. We can take a look at that because time is now, it's 2:18. So I'm gonna pause, stop for 5 minutes, and we can come back and take a look at other examples of errors. And yeah, see you in a moment. Okay, everyone. So now we will talk about errors in JavaScript, like errors related to JavaScript. So we were writing JavaScript, but the errors were related to Node or Node packages. So now we will look at errors related to JavaScript, and JavaScript, again, JavaScript runs on the browser. Node runs JavaScript on the machine or the server. So I have several examples here for famous or popular errors. Again, nothing like complex, but we can like revisit these like simple examples and errors. And if you have like anything to expand or we can expand on any of those if you have any questions. So I have an index HTML of like a basic one with 3 buttons. We can look at it live. So yeah, just 3 buttons, divs and input field. As you can see, first button, my button, and so on, my class. 2 divs with my class. 1 input field of text has an ID of my input, and then I have a div or a button inside a div, outer and inner, and we will look at different cases. So the first very trivial simple error here is I should have colon, and the way to handle errors or debug errors when it comes to JavaScript on the browser is to do inspect and go to the console. So here you would have uncoded syntax. We already have an error, script 3 on line 2. I think we have fixed that. Unexpected string. Okay, we save. As you can see, we don't have the error. So the console here is okay. You already know is here on the browser. We run JavaScript on the browser. So any console log you do here when you run the index HTML, you're not gonna see the value here on the console. You're gonna see it on this console. So I've defined person object with 3 keys and values. And now let's look at the second example. I'm trying to print address. So if I print the address, I wouldn't have anything. I have undefined. And the reason is there's no address. So again, you've talked about that is to do like dot and then look at the key. And as you can see, I have the name Java file or JavaScript. Java is a different programming language. So the extension of JavaScript files is JS, as you can see, while Java is Java file extension .java. Yeah, Java is different programming language. It's object-oriented programming language, and it's I mean, is from like, how to explain it? High level, yeah, and object-oriented. And it's very like robust and so it's when you say Java, you compare it with C++, C, Python, like these programming languages that are established and that are used in like C++ and C, they're used to write operating systems. JavaScript is used to, like, there's many uses. I'm not gonna say it's used for yeah, but it's famous for desktop applications, for instance. And JavaScript is more like for web, so it's totally different programming languages. Exactly, thank you. So they have Java, JavaScript, but they're not related. They're just okay. This appeared 95, and yeah, again appeared 95, but designed by James Gosling, and JavaScript is by a different guy, and it's a web technology. It's related to web, while Java is you download an SDK, it's called, when you work on Java, and it's for usually developing desktop applications. Yes, like in the normal case is to run JavaScript on the browser, but Node, we have Node.js, which is a framework that used JavaScript to make JavaScript runtime on the machine, or so it took JavaScript took the Chrome V8 engine, JavaScript engine, and make it local. So you don't need the Chrome to run JavaScript. Instead, you can run JavaScript on the backend. It's called JavaScript runtime environment. So you can use JavaScript, as we have seen in the first examples. We don't need the browser. We just type Node, and we can run JavaScript. But Java, different language. It's called object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming means it's based on classes. So do you remember the classes we have learned? In Java, the object-oriented programming is everything starts with the main class. So you have class main, and you just define classes and use objects from different classes and so on. So classes is essential in these languages. Okay, sure. And yeah, sorry if I talk too much about this. Let's go back. So here we are name. We have to do dot and then call a property. And another example is like product called widget, and then okay, this is again remove this and this here. And as you can see, I have error. Price is not defined. So I don't have price, so I cannot say price. I can define price. And price of widget is 10. Another example here is I have number 1, number 2. The first one is a string, and the second is like number. So if I type num1 equal num2, the numbers are equal. So in this case, are they equal or not equal? What do you think? In the case of this is called absolute equal, or yes, they're not equal, right? So 3 equals, it has a name. It's called I forgot the name. Yeah, it's called stacked versus loose. Yeah. So this is the stacked one. The 2 variables should be equal in value and type. So this is the type of this is string, and the type of this is variable. So they are not equal, but so if I go to my console, I can see like the price is equal because they're not equal. If I do like this, go to my website, the numbers are equal. Or if I do like values, I can have the numbers are equal as well. So this is used to make sure that both are equal in type or value, or you can also look at it that this operator, the lose one, makes conversion. So it converts these values into the same type, and then compare their values. So it doesn't look at the type. It makes kind of conversion. Another example I have is document.getElementById, and I have a click. So if I go to my button here, so I'm adding an event to my button, which is click. So and I'm adding function for my function. So let's see what's gonna happen if I run the code. I have an error. My function is not defined. Okay, I didn't have this function. Okay, this is the function. And I can call it my function. Now let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, I don't have an issue, but sometimes if you do like this, you should call the function with the operators. So we can see added in the second example. What I'm trying to do is okay. I have okay, let me do before I do this. And before I do this, so let this one be console log. And let's see what's going to happen if I click the button. Okay, I have button clicked without even clicking, because I'm calling the function. And if I now click, I should have button clicked, as you can see each time I click. So when you pass a function to add event listener, you should have type, and you should have the listener, and you should pass the function name. You don't need to call the function. So if you call the function, you're just printing once, as you can see. And if I clicked any number of times, nothing is changing. So instead, I need to call the name, and each time I click, I call the function that way. So this is something sometimes very trivial errors could makes a lot of confusion. So as you can see, each time I click, I'm having yeah. So another example I have is this one. So I have my function here, and I have count inside that function, and I've defined a function, the same button. I'm adding event to the button, to my button, and I'm adding event listener, which is click, and I'm defining the function here, which is count plus plus, and I'm counting each time I click on my button. This is what I'm trying to do. So let's try and run the code. Count is not defined. So what do you think the issue here is? So it says, the error says count not defined. If I pass event, I'm gonna keep printing. Yes, thank you. So the issue is with scope. So count is not accessed by this function because it has different scope. So since I'm not using this function, I can remove it, or I can just move most outside, clear it outside, then count now will work. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, etc. So as you can see, there's 2 events, and one event is working now. So if I stop this event, what it's clicked, I have this event. We don't have button is clicked, we have the counter only. So let's say we have this example before. This one. Button clicked, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now it's working. Both are working. We count. The count and the printing. Okay, not sure why when this was here. Yes, maybe it is. So after I get the element, I'm doing this function, and this after this is finished, anything after it's gonna work. I don't know the reason, but anyway, it's the best practice is to just have them in one like have them in one one function like this. I don't need to get elements. I button clicked and the count. Okay. Another scenario is div elements. Yeah, get elements by class name. So as you can see, I have 2 div elements in the HTML. This is div 1, this is second div, and I have my class for each of the elements. So I'm trying to, as you know, we know get element by ID. We catch or select an element through the ID, then we do our like functions. But I want to select multiple elements. I can do that with a class and get element by class. So let's save. Look, I have an error of get element is not a function. Usually this related to naming. So it's get elements by class, not element. It's multiple elements, or it's possible to have multiple elements. And let's look at the, before I look at what I'm doing with this, let's look at what this returns. Okay, I have another error, which is, okay, here it says object, line 39. I go to line 39, yeah, this is an object. So I can look at this object, and that is an error. Okay, it's an HTML collection of div my class, div1 and div2. So this is what I'm catching. Yes. So what I'm trying to do is, this is a collection, and to access collections, we need iteration, we need for loop. So I'm saying from I0 to the length of this collection, I less than the length, div elements dot length increase. So it's gonna start from 0. So I have two elements from 0, 1. So div elements 0, the style of that element, make the background color of red. So red should be as like, if you look at the style, how it's written, I should write it the same way. That's why I have that error. So I've changed the two developments in one line. So get elements by class is a way to select many elements using a class, which is opposite to get element by ID. So this is very useful if you wanna, as in this example, you wanna change or make modifications to multiple elements instead of only one. Okay. Another example I have is get elements by ID and then my input, and then I'm trying to change the value of my input. So if you remember the forms, we talked about the forms. So the forms usually looks like this. So I have an input. Usually we do value, and we add, if the form is input and the type is text, we can have a value of okay, name. And I should have name written here. As you can see, I'm having hello. So the reason is I'm bringing the input by the ID and then changing the input to value through hello. But yeah, what's the error here? Yeah, I think there's no error here. Yeah, there's no error. So you can assign, this is another way to assign value through JavaScript. Let's say we can do it in another way. Like if this button is clicked, then you can do it inside of it. If the button is clicked, then change my input value to hello. As you can see, I can change the value. This is the initial value, and the user can, yeah. And I'm wondering, okay, you can keep like changing the value with a button. This is also like you can have it clear. For instance, this is very easy for a clear scenario. So if you want to clear, you can just do with JavaScript like this. Okay, do you have a question, Hannah?
Yes, if you please. When I should use the event listener? Just
Uh,
button?
not only on buttons, but buttons is usually a very uh, like popular case. So to know this, let's look at the events.
Like if there is a dynamic things, I will use event listener.
Yes. So this is what JavaScript provides, which is interactivity. So
Mhm.
I think we will talk about this also in a future lecture, which is, as you know, we have keyboard and mouse, and we have different mouse events, keyboard events. So one of these events is the click. So let's look at,
Hover, I think also, if we hover over
yes,
something.
there's click, there's, yeah, click, mouse down, mouse up, key down, key up, submit, input, mouse enter, mouse leave. So this adds, like, imagine the variety of interactivity here. Click, everyone knows click. Mouse down is when you first click. So if I just do this and keep pressing, this is down. When I leave, this is mouse up, key down, key up, submit, input, mouse enter, mouse leave. Also, so imagine the interactivity. If I wanna have this white screen instead of black, so I can just move in, make it white, move out, make it black, and so on. So events is any mouse or keyboard event that you wanna listen to. You wanna make the ID or the element listen to, and you can apply changes based on that, based on that event.
Action, okay.
Based on that. Okay. Now the last example we have is, so I have another button, but it's inside a div, and I have outer ID and inner button. So when I select the outer and says outer div clicked and inner button clicked, so I have a kind of I'm calling these two once I click on this button, because I'm clicking on the button and the div surrounding the button. So as you can see, I'm doing two actions instead of one. So this is not preferable. And because for the user is clicking on what the user is seeing. The user, as you know, the user doesn't know what div means, and it's not a UI element, it's an HTML element. But when the user sees click me, it means clicking this button, not any other div. So the user is not expecting to clicking on anything but the button. So, but here I'm clicking on the inner button and the outer. So we don't need this one. We only need the inner button clicked. So this is, I think this could be called a best practice to have, yeah, buttons, or to not have nested actions, or I think they call it bubbles. Event propagation depends on which event are executed when an event occurs on HTML. Yeah, it's called event propagation. There's bubbling and capturing. In bubbling, the event starts at a target element and then bubbles up through its ancestors. So yeah, parent clicked, child clicked here. I have to parent and child. So when I click the child or the parent, both are clicked. And yeah. Okay, you don't need to like memorize the name, of course, but it's like a best practice is to have an event like focus on the selected element that the user is looking at and make the action on based on that. Okay, so I hope that this you find this today's lecture helpful. Again, I think you have like faced more difficult problems, but it's again based on context, based on what you want to achieve. But today is like a kind of a practice of debugging. And the last thing we can talk about is the debugger of VSCode. I think there was a class about this. You have learned about this before. Okay. So the debugger is a way to debug in a systematic way, let's say. So when you open VSCode, go to the run and debug here, and you can debug through the terminal, and or you can create a file. Okay, I want to debug using Chrome. So I create launch.json and I just provide my localhost and I start debugging from here. So instead of running a live server, I just go to live server and go to the debugger, run it here. And so this is a file, it's called launch.json. If you create a debugger, it's gonna I need to stay alive. Okay. Okay, here's my debugging window. This is used when you are facing more complex or advanced issue, and you have tried like different resources, and you're still like you don't know what is happening. I'm not sure. Have you like talked about this before? Have you like been introduced to this before in a previous lecture? Oh, okay. Yeah, the browser is just if we are like doing JavaScript on the browser. So it's very powerful, but at the same time, it's not very difficult. So the most important thing is breakpoints. So let's say I'm having an issue with price. For instance, price is not appearing. So if I just on my website and open my console, okay, it has also already price undefined here, but let's use the breakpoints. It's just for practice. You can know, let's say this is very hard to like solve issue, and I'm not seeing price printed on my console for some reason. I have issue with price, so I go to price, add a breakpoint, and rerun the code or just terminate and start the debugger. So the idea is you have a systematic way of how to run the code sequentially line by line. So the code or the debugger would stop on these breakpoints, and you can do these three operations. This would just continue and run the code normally and everything normally, or you can run step by step. So as you can see, there's no error now. We haven't reached price. We have printed name one, which is this one. We have now on the second, on line 15. So we haven't like run anything. So you can stop on using breakpoints. You can stop the code on certain lines that you want to stop. So if you continue, the debugger will jump to the second breakpoints, or if there's no breakpoints, it's gonna like run the code normally. So since we are like debugging price, we have three options. So we can either like for the next step to step into a function. So if there is function on the next step or this step, if there's a function, we are gonna step into that function and see what is inside. If we are in a function, we step out. Let's say we have reached here from another function, then we want to get in or get out, just say step over. So can you still hear me? Here it says Zoom something. My internet is not stable, so okay, thank you. So I can just like step over and I code the error. Okay, price is not defined. I can look at the error and just fix it easily. So again, this is very trivial. You'd say, okay, it's not a big deal. But in certain cases, scenarios, when you're using multiple open source libraries, different functions, so your code would be complex. You would be using like different libraries, and you want to go to these functions from that libraries and so on. So you would keep tracking your error until you solve the issue. So again, you just go run and debug, then breakpoint, and then as you have seen, run the debugger, and then move into the steps. There's variables, watch and call stack. So variables would let you know what are like the variables at this point of code. What are the state of variables? So we have person with price, with name, age, and city. We have price of 10, and we have product. We continue. Okay, we need a breakout points to see the variables. Watch, we can watch expressions, and this is more advanced features. I've never used those. Call stack and loaded scripts. Loaded scripts is the scripts that are loaded. Now we are loading only script 3. Yeah, I remembered something. Okay, this is about the debugger. I think this is like kind of a quick review, and yeah, the breakpoints. Keep in mind the breakpoints, and this is your let's say this is your way if you're having a complex issue and you couldn't solve it easily. And I remember this error here, the input value. So let's So if we have, as you know, usually we add script in the head, but we add like the meta, the title, and any CSS, for instance, we just add it here. We link our other files through the head, but for the JavaScript files, we usually put them at the bottom of the body. And the reason for that is if the script is at the top, so this is a best practice, and it's essential to avoid many issues, as we will see. So usually script is, if you put script here, so what's going to happen is you would see cannot treat properties of null at the event listener of, okay, let's look at this 2836 script 3. Okay, this one, document.getEvent by ID. So this is the first encounter with the button. So as you can see, I've just removed the script from the top, from the bottom to the top, and now nothing is working anymore. And the reason is I'm having the script at the top, and this script is running before the document is loading. So the script is at the top, at the head. So the script is running before I even have these on the screen. Like, I don't have my button yet, but I'm calling my button here. I'm selecting my button here before my button is even rendered on the screen. So it's a best practice to have script or JavaScript under body. And the second thing is, sometimes when you have, like, let's say your file, the HTML file is now this file is very small in size. If you have a bigger HTML file with many elements, this would be a large file. So there's many elements to render on the screen. And imagine there's also the website is on a server on the web, on the cloud. So there would the website would take time to load. So in that case, we will face the same issue that, okay, I'm selecting my button, but the button isn't rendered yet because for some reason because script is small in size. So I've downloaded script, but in the index is large in size. So I'm waiting the whole data to come to the client, render it, and then yeah, I would have my button on the screen. So you would face this in certain scenarios, and the way to do this is to wait the window to load. It's called, I think, window.loaded. Okay, let's look at the syntax here. Okay, yeah, it's this one. It's it's an event listener, and you can have it you can have it like this. You can add your entire code inside DOMContentLoaded. So let's comment all any all code here. I'm just gonna focus on the button for now. And let's move the script to the top. So as you can see previously, if I didn't have content loaded, I would have error. But now it's working. This is related to count, already been declared. But now, as you can see, it's working. So I'm making sure in this event, I'm making sure the document is loaded first, my document, the index HTML, and then I'm doing my operations. If I don't have this one, then I'm gonna have, as you can see, error, which is their name is property, cannot treat properties of null. Why? Again, because I'm having script over the head. And also you would face this if the file is huge, even if the script is at the bottom. So a basic way to do this is add event listener. Usually also, since why I'm doing this, because we're talking about errors. Also, you would face an error of loading. So once we learn databases, we need also to wait for the data to load from the database, and then we can make modifications after the data has come from the database. So this is okay. So this is a new event that you can keep in mind, which is DOMContentLoaded. Okay, any questions before we jump to the break, and then we'll start the labs after that? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing, break for 5 minutes, and then you will come back to the labs. And if you have questions about anything, you can let us know there.
Can I ask one question before we close? Again, what's DOM content loaded?
Okay, I'm gonna explain it one more time at the time of labs.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So let's start the labs. So this time is like designated for like working on your groups and also to help you with your projects, for your projects if you want any assistance. So, but also we can like, of course, help in with any other like assignments or questions you have. So I'm gonna open breakout rooms, and if you can join any if you want. So we can take answers on the main room, or we can just we can go to a breakout room and yeah, I remembered we can take questions on like on private breakout rooms. And okay, yeah, we can take also questions on the main room. But if you're not, if you like wanna like you wanna work in without like someone talking in the background, you can just move to a breakout room. And yeah, I'm gonna open breakout rooms. And let us know if you have any questions. Hannah, you were asking about DOM content, right?
Yes, if you please.
Yes, sure. So this is an error. So let's remove this for now. This is an error happens when you have, okay, let's look at the error. It's this one, cannot read properties of null. So this is an error happens when you select, when you call document dot get element by ID, and you pass the ID, and that ID or that element is not rendered on the screen yet. So it's when JavaScript runs this, it receives null because it couldn't find my button. My button isn't rendered. So the reason it's not rendered is because I have script at the head. So I'm defining the head. I'm defining this this JavaScript file, and then I'm having the body which contains my button here. So this is running before the button, and because of that, I'm selecting, I'm selecting the button here, but it's not rendered yet, right? So one way to do this, when this is a best practice, is to have JavaScript files added here at the bottom instead of the top. Okay, I have it at the bottom here. Let's remove it for now. And also, it's not only this is not the only case. Usually, also when you have a large index.html file, and you have the script, calling the script at the bottom, but the script is small in size, so you are getting the script, but the HTML file isn't received yet. So this error would happen again. Another scenario is when we load data from the database, and the data is also of huge size, and we have issues, let's say, with slow internet connection. So the data is not rendered yet or not received yet, and trying to access this data using, let's say, in my case, I'm trying to access the My button here. So the idea is to access something that is not rendered yet. And to solve this, this is, okay, I have, in my case here, I'm having script here. So I'm having null because my button is rendered. So the way to solve this is one basic way, is to wait. So I'm telling JavaScript, don't do any of these operations inside. Don't do any of these operations unless the content, all the content is loaded of the DOM. So this makes sure that everything is rendered here, and then I can do my operations. So now, as you can see, I have script at the top, but I have DOM content loaded. So as you can see, I don't have the error and everything is working fine.
Okay, so it's reserved word?
Yes. So this is an event. Yeah. If you just do something like this, it's the first option.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So this is do you remember the events we were talking about? Those
Yeah.
events related to mouse and keyboard, but there's also another events. One of them is DOMContentLoaded.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if you have again any questions, let us know. And again, this time is for you to work on your projects. It's not only a lab. So the lab, we don't have assignment for a lab, but we have this time as like working on your projects and ask us questions about the projects.
Can I have another question, please, during today's lecture?
Yes, sure.
I saw you when you let me see the node modules in your computer. You have too many modules, but for me, I just have the module that I install it by name. Is there any way to install all the modules that node included? Yes, like you have all these, the lodash, the multi. Yes, you just did it like one by one and just install it by mention the name, or there is a way to install all the modules?
You don't need to install all the modules it's because it's very huge. And I think I've
Okay.
I've downloaded those when I'm working on different
Okay, so it's gonna like take a big space on my computer if I download all these modules.
You don't need to. The thing is you need to download
the needed modules that.
Yes, exactly. So what do you want to need? You download, because at the end, this goes to production, And once you go to production, you need to there is called dependencies. So you'd have dependencies, and some of these depend on others, and so on. And you don't need your code to be huge. So yeah, just need to download the related or the needed ones, and you need to keep. So in our case here, we don't have like dependencies, but if you
Oh,
were working on a project, you would, okay, let's say this colors is, for instance, for example, colors is dependent on lodash. So when you update lodash, you need to check how this affects the use of colors. Maybe you need to update colors and or keep it on or take it to a previous version and so on. So this is called dependencies. So there's relations between nodes. I mean,
okay.
in certain frameworks. I'm not sure if this happens in node modules, but
Oh,
in our scenario, in our case, yeah, just download the needed ones.
okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, everyone. So we're done with the labs today. Thank you all. There's an office hour today, by the way, at 7, and see you tomorrow.